It's Unscripted on the Field of 68, the Michigan State basketball podcast presented by BetRivers. I'm Greg Waddell. With me, as always, Carter Elliott. And we have Spartan Hoops' own David Klein with us today to break down what went wrong for Michigan State in the loss to Northwestern over the weekend. DK, have you drank your sorrows away yet? How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good. I know Card's down low. I compartmentalized some stuff yesterday. I had a couple drinks. I let it out. I watched the game, which is always a little bit of cathartic for me because I can kind of process what exactly happened. And I think that this was a situation where we all knew it was coming. There was a loss coming. They were playing that way. And I guess despite the fact that this is a stinky loss of Pete Nance-less Northwestern team at home, this is an ugly loss. There's no getting around it. But I'm traveling to Madison, as I've told you guys. I think that if we would have snuck out a win, it would have been kind of covering up some of the warts of what this team needs to take a hard look in the mirror. And we probably would have got blown out at Wisconsin. So I'm hoping that maybe this resets just the team in general, and perhaps we see just a little bit more locked in version on Friday. And given the fact that I'm traveling for it, I think this is probably best case scenario for my trip. So selfishly, I guess I'm okay with it.
Okay, that's a pretty measured take. So I like that starting off. Now we're going to go to a guy who I don't know if he's going to have a very measured take on this loss, Carter Elliott.
Yeah, I'm about to get unmeasured as hell. That was embarrassing. It ruined my Saturday. I woke up this morning. I called my mother. She said, "Good morning, loser." I tried to hug my wife this morning. She said, "No, don't really want to associate with losers." So it's affecting me pretty big. I mean, everything that could have gone wrong yesterday literally went wrong. I don't think anybody played well. We'll get more deeply into it, but I think I can point to one player who played well. And everybody else, coaching staff included, just absolutely put up an absolute stinker against, without Pete Nance, I would say the worst team in the Big Ten without Pete Nance. So it was just bad vibes all the way around. Yeah, a loss was coming, like DK said, but yesterday hurt a little bit more than just a loss that should have happened. I think it has to do with, one, how we played, two, the decisions that were made by the coaching staff, and then Pete Nance being out on top of that, just really, it was bad.
Yeah, it was bad. I think it's fair to assert that Northwestern without Pete Nance is probably the worst team in the Big Ten. But at the same time, Carter, you and I have talked, we like this Northwestern roster. Obviously, a lot of that was built around Pete Nance and what he does. So I'm not.
I like Pete Nance. The Northwestern roster's not good.
I'm not excusing the loss, but they do have some dudes who can do things when you give them the opportunity to do things. Yesterday, Michigan State certainly gave them opportunities.
You want me to wrap up the game yesterday in one sentence right now? I'll tell you. We let a 7-footer from Clarkston High School, who's played 12 to 10 minutes all year, come in and out-tough us in our own crib and out-hustle us. That's all you need to know right there.
We made Ryan Young look like Kevin McHale.
Ryan Young looked like the most dominant post forward. So he looked like Caucasian Shaquille O'Neal out there. Literally could not do anything with that man. It was unbelievable.
Okay, so real quick, before we get into the details on what was wrong yesterday, I just have to do one thing quickly. We're 2 minutes and 35 seconds into this podcast. Carter, I don't like your energy. I think this has been a lazy start from you. So I'm going to stick you to the bench. I'm going to replace you with Joey Hauser. And then after we wrap this podcast, I'm going to just absolutely dog you in the post-podcast press conference. And we'll see if that motivates you for next week's episode. Any thoughts on that one, DK? Is that how I should handle this guy?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that situation. We've seen 3 years running in which, Bingham has been in the doghouse. He's drawn the ire of Tom Izzo. It felt like that, page turn had happened. And I pulled the numbers. I was fascinated to know just kind of when this started going downhill. And he started out the first 13 games of the season, 11 points, 8 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 22 minutes per game. That's a really nice start to the season. That's a long stretch. That's not a short stretch in any imagination. The last 3 games, 4 points per game, 2.7 rebounds, 2 blocks, and he's playing just 16 minutes per game. The reason Michigan State has been struggling, particularly on the defensive end, is as a direct result of the Bingham situation. Cart, we talked about this when we kind of came into the season, and I said to you, Bingham's kind of the X factor. This team is unfortunately going to go the way that he goes. And you were like, that's terrifying to me. And we started the season, you're like, holy crap. All right, this is going well because it's going well for him. And because this team's taken a little bit of a backslide, I think that you just have to look at that situation. I don't know exactly how the relationship is going right now with that. It was nice that Bingham came out and just said, I got to be better. Like he put a little bit of the honest on him. So to me, that was a maturity step because you could tell he's been frustrated on the bench. The body language hasn't been great, both in the game and on the bench. The staff has to understand to a certain degree, not all players can be ridden as hard and like as aggressively as some of the other guys, right? Like Bingham is not a guy, in my opinion, that can be ridden into the ground. And we've seen parts of that, and we're seeing maybe them ride him a little hard. And I get that they realize he's kind of the key to unlocking where this season is going to go. But the flip side of that is every once in a while, he needs a little pat on the back and says like a attaboy. Like when's the last time he's just gotten a little bit of confidence or like a little bit of like, you know, like, don't worry about it, shrug it off. I'm not going to bench you for taking a bad shot in the middle of the game type thing. And I think that what we've seen is maybe some of the standards for other players, which we saw a ton last year, is a little bit different. And I think it's unfair to him. I don't think he's played great. It's a two-way street. But I think to a certain degree, I can't 100% defend the way that they've been handling him. He's the most important piece to this team. So whatever you got to do to get him right, figure it out this week because it's got to happen.
Yeah, the answer is never. As far as how many times is he given a pat on the back or an attaboy? The answer is never. He is subbed out literally within the first 3 minutes of every single game, even when he's playing great, even when he is a dog, even when he's active on the boards and gets 2 offensive rebounds and 2 blocks in the first 2 minutes of a game. He's been subbed out every single game this season as if it's a script. And look, I've heard, maybe you know this, DK. I don't think that I had heard this before. Does Stevens run the substitutions for the bigs on this team?
I have heard that he is involved in the substitution stuff, but honestly, it comes from the top down, right? They've been partners for a long time. So if Izzo doesn't like the way that the rotation is going, he should voice his concern about that. So to me, it's a mutual decision, and ultimately the buck stops at Izzo on that one.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because, to your point, like every player is different, and I'm not here to psychoanalyze the relationship between Tom Izzo and his players. Everyone that has heard me talk about this before knows that I don't agree with the way Tom Izzo publicly rides his players. That's not my style. I get that it's worked with a lot of guys. That's why he's a Hall of Famer and I'm a podcaster. But it's really hard for me to watch the way he's been trying to build up and defend Joey Hauser for the last 2 years and let him play through mistake after mistake after mistake and give utter positivity to that player at all times publicly with the way he's handled Marcus Bingham over the course of 4 years. Because I think all three of us would agree we have not gotten the best out of Marcus Bingham. Like, it's not like we know the way that he manages that relationship has worked, because we got 2 weeks of the best of Marcus Bingham, and then that has disappeared, and seemingly that's going to pose really serious problems for this team. Cart, what's your take?
Just for me, well, one, I agree with what DK and you said about the whole coaching thing. I think in my experience playing basketball, like there's a certain player that needs to be coached a certain way. That's just the way it is. Like some guys respond to getting, basically ridden the whole time. That makes them get up. There's other guys that, you can't be as hard on because that's just the way they are as basketball players. Sometimes that sucks, but especially when it's one of your most important pieces, you should just make that adjustment to coach them to get the best out of them and also get the best out of you to make, a better team. And specifically with Bingham, Marcus in general, I think that DK stated at the start of this year, the games that he was having really good games. I think he's earned the right and the trust to have and to play through mistakes and to lift him up. You can see what he does when he has the minutes, when he has the energy, when he has production. So they need to see that, and there just shouldn't be games where he's playing under 20 minutes. Now, I will side with Izzo on this. From what I saw at the start of the game yesterday, Bingham was lethargic and kind of lazy from the start. He was in the post on defense. He was leaning on people. They were spinning off of him. He's getting in foul trouble. He just looked, he was a little lazy with the ball. Wasn't that strong with the basketball. Okay, take him out. Maybe say, all right, Marcus, pick this shit up. Take him out for a second or two or a couple of minutes. But you can't just bench a guy for the whole game, especially when we're getting eaten alive on the inside and guys are just going to the hoop at will. At the end of the day, if you want to win the basketball game, let's put our 7-footer in with freakishly long arms and maybe the offense will think twice about going to the hoop or shooting a shot. So it's a two-way street. I'm siding more with Bingham in this situation. I think that Izzo was in the wrong. But then, I try to defend him and I'm like, yeah, put him back in. And he came in and he did like a jab step, one dribble pull up from the wing and shot like a deep two. And I was like, oh my God, no.
Yeah, I knew he was getting pulled. Like you knew immediately he was getting pulled for that.
Literally when he did the jab step, I knew what he was about to do. I'm like, no, Marcus, don't do it.
Marcus, no.
Oh God. Before it even hit the rim, Marble was already at the table. I was like, God.
Can I say this though? So I'm the same way. I was watching that like, oh no. And he was very clearly in his own head and he was getting pulled immediately as he should have been. But at the same time, that's a pretty nice move for a center to have in his bag. Like that little rip through, like, look,
he's hit that at like 40% this year. He's hitting that mid-ranger, pretty good clip.
Yeah, do you want that shot at that time? Of course not. But at the same time, like to me, that's Marcus Bingham summed up. It's like, you see that it's like, holy shit. Like that's something most centers can't do. The way he defends the rim, no other center on this team can do.
And last thing on this, also, not only is it bad for, just not having him on the floor, but it is not ideal to play basketball when you're thinking the whole time and looking over your shoulder that you're going to get subbed out. Yeah. No matter what move you do. Like, let's say he hits that shot, he still might have got pulled out, to be honest. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised. Like, Izzo probably thought that was a terrible shot at the time. Like, it is really tough to play when you have to look over your shoulder at all times, knowing that you can be pulled at any minute through any mistake. And then he's not going to admit it. He's not going to say it. But the fact that his leash is short and other leashes are so long on this team, that's got to have an effect on him too. Like that's bullshit that other players have longer leashes, especially with the way he's played. I think this year he's earned the right to have a longer leash.
And I want just one more point before we wrap up this subject. So you don't play him like the last 7 or 8 minutes down the stretch, right? And then he's got to come in cold off the bench, gets an opportunity to potentially tie the game. Maybe if that guy had played a few more minutes down the stretch, he has some legs under him to be able to hit that shot. Coming ice cold off the bench and then to put him on the line for the free throws in that situation. So you trust him in a game-winning situation, but you don't trust him down the game-winning situation in the stretch. To me, that was just like, I don't know. I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, right. I 100% agree. And we have to give credit to Marcus Bingham, the kid here. He did take to Twitter after the game and essentially send a message to Spartan Nation saying, I will be better. I promise. I'm sorry, Spartan Nation. I think he's handled this as maturely as any kid possibly could. I'm rooting for Marcus Bingham. I think all three of us agree on this. He's the piece on this team that is irreplaceable, right? Maybe you can talk about other guys you need to take jumps and elevate this team ceiling. Like Marcus Bingham, if this team's going to go anywhere, has to be on the floor. And this might be over summarizing it, but in their wins this season, what are they, 14-3 right now? 14 wins this season. He's played 22 minutes a game. In their 3 losses, he's played 17 minutes a game, and that's trending in the wrong direction with 12 minutes yesterday. So I guess one final question to you guys on Bingham. Even if Marcus Bingham is playing half speed, which I'm not defending, but isn't Marcus Bingham at half speed better than whatever the second option is? Not Marble yesterday. Marble was great, and we'll talk about that. But, like, I'd rather have half-speed Marcus Bingham for 25 minutes a game than I would have 10 minutes of small ball.
Yeah, I mean, a half-speed Marcus Bingham, that doesn't shrink his arms, doesn't shrink him at all. He's still 7 feet. Like, I don't know.
And I don't think the staff's ever going to get to a point where they're okay with that. And to me, that's something you might have to deal with, because I don't think we're going to get to a point where we get 100% effort from Marcus Bingham. This has been problems that have plagued him his entire career. It's why a dude who has a 7'3" wingspan isn't on NBA radars because he has effort and stamina concerns. And at this point, I think the coaching staff kind of has to accept that even with those concerns, he's going to make a better difference than some of the backup options will be. But we'll see. We've obviously spent a lot of time on Bingham. Let's move on. Other takeaways from yesterday's game that scare you guys. I think just in general, we talked about Bingham's effort, but I think across the board, this seemed like it was a pretty lethargic effort, and Northwestern was getting to loose balls. They were getting on the floor. The turnover issues continue to persist. Cart, where would you direct your largest concerns outside of Marcus Bingham from yesterday's game?
I think I honestly would go with the lethargicness and the turnovers. It's just I say it every single game. It's just the turnovers that we have are just like careless, like guys just throwing it into the backcourt, not be able to throw it into the post. Simple basketball things like pass it to the wing to get the better angle to throw it into the post. Don't throw a post pass to somebody on the block from the top of the key. Guys dribbling off their foot, guys going too fast. And it's either that or, we're reverting back to the Tyson Walker from the start of this year where we're getting absolutely nothing from him when he's on the floor. And these are the type of games like Christie's off. Guys are off. Bingham's not playing. Like we're not getting we're not getting much from AJ Hoggard. He's having some turnover issues. He's not really having that big of an impact on the offensive end. This is where we need an aggressive Tyson to pick us up, and we need somebody. It doesn't we tried to have Gabe do it. I thought Gabe tried to have some great effort in the first half to pick us up from our lethargicness, but we really needed somebody to step up and kind of take over and get some buckets in this game. And it could have been Tyson. I thought he was once again passing up looks, passing up threes, and I just don't understand why. But the turnovers are just they got to stop because Northwestern's not even that good of a defensive team. I mean, yeah, credit to them for putting in great effort, but we were having so many careless turnovers, just throwing the ball away. It's really frustrating. And then combine that with lethargicness, it was a terrible product on the floor.
I would probably go to the defensive rebounding has been kind of my largest concern. So yeah. Minnesota, they gave up 12 offensive rebounds. They're 358th. So the last place team in offensive rebounding in the country. Northwestern is now up to 165th, and we gave up 17 offensive rebounds. To me, that's effort. When I was going back and watching the film, it was long shots. They took a lot of long threes that were kind of coming off the rim hard, but everybody was turning and just running to the rim instead of checking out. Like, to me, that's just a film watch, and it's like you got to hit somebody's body before you turn to find the ball because they can't get the rebound if you're turned and you put yourself into them to come back to the rim after, the shot comes up. So I think that it's just been like the failure to execute, both on the offense and defensive end. That's been probably my largest concern. And I think it speaks to just generally the energy that we've seen from this team over the last few games. Like we said at the beginning, this was a loss that was going to happen sooner than later. And it kind of just culminated last night in bad turnovers, no offensive, bad defensive rebounding, and just not enough energy from the guys that we needed to.
Yeah, 17 offensive boards for Northwestern.
That's a ton. That's insane.
And some of them were like 4 on one possession.
Yeah, that
it's
one
just ridiculous.
The Boo Booey possession.
Yeah, and Boo Booey had 4 straight threes and just missed them all, but got them all back.
Yeah, I mean, keep shooting, Boo. He will. I agree. Rebounding was horrendous yesterday. I think the tough part for me is that both the offensive rebounding yesterday for Northwestern and the turnovers, to me, were a team-wide problem. Like, we can't necessarily point our fingers at one guy like we're talking with the Marcus Bingham situation. Like, I'm looking across the board. We had 9 players with a turnover yesterday, 17 turnovers. I mean, every single starter except for Gabe had 2 or more turnovers. Hoggard with 3 off the bench. Even our bigs had turnovers. Marble, Sissoko, Bingham each had turnovers. Like, it's crazy. I don't know how they get this under control. Obviously, Izzo's been, laser focused on trying to fix this, but so far to no avail. There's just a lot of issues with this team right now, which look, in a larger conversation, stepping back, they're 14-3. I think everyone would say this team has, for the most part, overachieved just specific to their record this season. We're happy with the way the tournament went earlier this year. Their losses to Kansas and Baylor are great losses. They've taken care of business pretty much everywhere else except for yesterday. Against teams that you can point to and you can nitpick at, but bottom line, they're finding ways to win. However, at the same time, this is a bit of a reset for the season. 5 days off. They go to Madison Friday. They're playing Wisconsin, Illinois, and Michigan back to back to back. The schedule amps up quickly. And this team, if you're really looking at how they've played, there's not a lot going well right now. So it sort of seems like a swing moment in the season. And we've seen this in the past, DK. We've seen the January loss to a bad team happen over and over and over and over in Tom Izzo's career at Michigan State. I'm going to play conspiracy theorist here. Was there a part of Tom Izzo that was okay with this loss? He hit the post game after and basically said, I think this team's fat and happy. I think they were reading their press clippings. What do you think?
100%. I think he probably wanted that loss. And honestly, he coached like he wanted to lose the game down the stretch. I don't know how else to say it. You're watching Ryan Young absolutely feast on Joey Hauser, and we can get to that, eventually. But the decisions made for a 7-minute stretch from basically was like right under the 9-minute mark to around like the 2:15 mark. Hauser was in that stretch the whole time, and he gave up 8 points during that, and he had probably an opportunity to give up another 3 layups. Young ended up missing a couple. I think Christie slid over on a help side on one. He missed a couple bunnies around the rim. He could have given up 12 or 14 points. And to watch that continue to happen and not make a change was borderline coaching malpractice, and really did a disservice, in my opinion, to Joey Hauser, because who's gonna take the real fire for that? Is it going to be Joey Hauser from the fan base, or is it going to be Tom Izzo? Not a lot of parts of the fan base really want to go at the coach in a situation like that. They'd rather go at the player. But to me, that's 100% on the coach. You watched him get abused and you let it continue to happen. So I think that he coached to basically lose that game. And do I think he really wanted 100% to do it? Probably not. But at the same time, I think that this team probably needed to take a loss. And it was unfortunate it came against this team in this circumstance. But again, if they can't hit the reset button and regroup before Madison, then this could get pretty ugly during this stretch, like you said.
DK, I'm with you. I think there was a conscious, maybe not conversation or decision, but there was a conscious understanding from this coaching staff that it's not the end of the world if we lose this game, because this team needs a wake-up call. Now, Carter, I got to throw it to you because I know you are seething at hearing this. And this is a Michigan State team that, for what it's worth, was first place, undefeated in the conference going into this game. This is 100% a game that could cost you a banner at the end of the season.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, I don't paint myself as a basketball genius, but I'm pretty sure the point of playing a game is to win it. And if that was the mindset they're coming in with, they could at least let me know that, so I could have gone over to BetRivers and laid some money on Northwestern spread, for the love of God. And to just go back to the Hauser point as well, this is 100% on Izzo. I don't know why. I think people want to get mad at Joey just because people get mad at Joey for just, Joey could be standing there and everyone just look at Joey. Who cares? He's doing what he does. That'd be like y'all getting mad about me not being able to grow a beard. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't do it. If you put me in the situation to grow a beard, I'm not going to be able to grow one. You put Joey Hauser in the defensive post, he's not going to be able to be a good post defender. He's never been a good post defender. Let it go. It's not going to happen. The coaches have to put their team in the best position to win. And if they do that and then the players shit the bed or they don't play well, okay, go look at the players. But as a coach, you have to have your team, 1, prepared, and 2, be able to put your players, because you know them better than anybody and know the way they play, to put them in the best position to succeed. And not only did he not put Joey in the best position to succeed, but also for a guy who's been so worried about, the perception of Joey Hauser, good Lord, That you're talking about us getting on him. Look what you just did to that man.
Right.
That was mean. Like, you should not have done that to him. It was bad all the way around. And yeah, I hear you guys on the whole. Yeah, we got to lose a game. Like, we need to be humble. We're reading the articles, we're reading the clip-ins, yada yada yada. No, respectfully, F that noise. Win basketball games. I swear to God, if we don't win the Big Ten title or we're in contention and we lose a banner because we couldn't beat a Pete Nanceless Northwestern at home, I am going to do bad things to myself. Like, that's just not okay. So I'm getting pissed off just thinking. I don't even want to talk about this.
Look, nobody wants to see that happen, my friend. I do feel like this is a group therapy session, so let it all out. We're here for you. I feel like
we're here
for some things here.
Will people be able to hear audio tears? Like,
it's look, it's good that I think all three of us are on the same page in regards to Joey Hauser. You cannot blame Joey Hauser for being Joey Hauser. And that is where we're at this point. I'm getting really sick and tired of seeing all the pointed attacks at him on Twitter. At this point, I would love for this fan base to just accept his limitations. And I hope that this,
as long as the coaching staff can accept the limitations, that's the problem we're running into. The coaching staff is not willing to accept that there's limitations there and to play him like the role player that he is. He's not a 25-minute per night guy. I think you were, kind of at the beginning of the season thinking more towards him being that, but I think that we can all agree now he's a 15 to 18 minute per guy, and Hall has got to take the bulk of the minutes, because to me, when he's on the floor, he's probably the most trustworthy two-way player that you have at this point. So to continue to ride Hauser at the expense of Hall is a complete detriment to the team, and I don't understand that.
Yeah. It made it a lot. Last thing on this, G, it made it a lot easier, and I actually give credit to Greg for this, because the first few games of the season, I was looking at Joey Hauser as a guy that I want to be like this, not lethal, but like a really good pick and pop 4-man, like right around 12 points, shooting extremely well, like being a very productive starter minute level player. When I accepted that Joey Hauser is a role player and I accepted what his limitations are, it basically it helps you see it a lot more clearly. Like, don't expect guys like Joey Hauser to go on, because that's just not who he is. And that is okay. Like, it's okay. It sucks. I wish he was more, but it's okay. So we'll be all right. We'll move on. Joey Hauser doesn't have to be the scapegoat in every single situation, in every single MSU loss. And the fact of the matter is, Joey Hauser was brought up a lot yesterday. And I don't think it was necessarily his fault, as we just said. Like, he is what he is.
Yeah. When things go wrong for Michigan State, Joey is consistently like 5th or 6th on my list of things that need to be fixed for this to work. And like, look, again, if his role could diminish a little bit, I think everyone would agree that's a good thing at this point. Maybe by March that happens. But even Cart, you and I a week ago, when we did our trust rankings in the front court, I think we both had Joey Hauser second over Malik Hall, because
the only thing I want out of Joey Hauser is for him to shoot the ball a little better from 3. That's it. Like, everything else he's doing is just who he is. Like, it would just help a lot more if he was getting eaten alive on the post, if he could come down and shoot close to 40% from 3. That'd be nice. But it is what it is.
Yeah. All right, quick reset here. Again, this is the Field of 68's unscripted Michigan State show. We've got David Klein from SpartanHoops.com with us here, powered by BetRivers. Go get your bets in at BetRivers.com. Let's pivot to Max Christie. I told you guys, I teased this before we clicked record. I have a staggering stat for you. I'm about to drop that right now. I've made a big buzz about Christie's performance against good teams versus his performance against bad teams. All in all, he's had a very successful season, a very promising season. I think at this point, he's right in line for that return for his sophomore year, breakout superstar type role next season. And right now, he's still contributing in a big way. But you guys, this is Max Christie's numbers in 7 games against top 75 opponents this season. 24% from the floor overall, 22% from 3, 6.0 points per game. Now, in the 9 games against teams 76th or lower in the country, 49% from the floor, 41% from 3, 13.8 points per game. He's been disastrous against decent teams. and he has been phenomenal against horrible teams. Is this something that we just have to accept, or is this a total like just pure luck that that's what it is, and this could turn around any second? DK, what do you think?
I don't know what quite to make of it. I think that when he plays some better athletes and more physical players, he's had a tendency to struggle a little bit. He's struggled around the rim for most this season. He hasn't really scored very well. I'd have to look at the Bart Torvik numbers on that, but I bet it would be probably 30, 40%, right? I bet he's under on that if you want to pull that up real quick. I think he's a guy that coming into the season, we thought Michigan State's offense was going to really need to be humming for them to be able to reach their level. And I still think that's the case, at least for the ceiling. But I think that what he's given us in terms of, the point production, he's right around 10. He's around 4 rebounds. He's playing 30 minutes per night still. He's kind of given you probably what I thought he was going to do. I thought it was going to be maybe a little bit more efficient in terms of his 3-point shooting in particular. But he just has nights where he can't find the bottom. And yesterday was probably the worst performance he's had to date in the season, after he had 4 games in a row where he was averaging like 16.5 points per game and shooting 65% from 3. So this is a circumstance where I think he's just going to have some freshman ups and downs. For the most part, Michigan State has been able to overcome them with just the general collective group coming in to score when he's had a rough night. And yesterday, they didn't really have anybody outside of Marble and Hall in some spots to be able to kind of alleviate that. And in a large part, if you're looking at maybe like why Michigan State lost that game, if Max Christie hits a couple more shots, which he had a bunch of good looking ones, he had a ton of open threes. He didn't see it go down for him. If he just has like a 12-point game, we probably don't lose that game. So you're going to just have some variance over the course of this freshman year. I think this next stretch is going to be really interesting to see how he responds after a down game. They're going to need him against Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan. He's got to be a big part of this team going forward. So I don't know. I think that's more of a wait and see for me. He's kind of given you what I thought he was going to give you. Like I said, just would like it maybe a little bit more efficient, a little bit more consistently against the better teams.
Card, I think I pointed this stat out to you maybe a month ago, like in the middle of Michigan State's hot streak. It was like the Christie hype was building a little bit. I'm like, well, if you kind of look at some of his worst games, they've come in the games against bigger teams. He has 8 double-digit scoring games in his 16 games played this season. 7 of those 8 in the 9 games against bad teams. The other 1 out of his 7 against good teams. Look, you even go back like Loyola, 1 for 6, UConn, 1 for 9. Penn State 2 for 7 yesterday, 1 for 8. It's just a lot of missed shot games. And I think all of us would say we're watching him on the floor. It's not like he's out of position. It's not like he's not contributing in other facets, but Cart, you love to say it's a make or miss game. There's a lot of misses against decent opponents from Max Christie right now that at this point, I'm willing to say this is a legitimate trend that I'm going to have a laser focus on as they get in to the next portion of the schedule, because there are no cupcakes coming up for Michigan State. And if Max Christie is going to shoot 22% from the floor against non-cupcakes, it's going to be really hard for this team to win.
Yeah, I think DK hit it on the head. This next stretch for Cormac is going to be huge. Like, he has to be able to, I mean, these are coming against really good defensive teams, higher, what you would call in the good category of teams, Greg. And, for him, I'm not necessarily concerned because, as I always say, like, I don't think there's anything he's doing that's necessarily wrong. The shots just aren't falling, and like, that sucks. But, that's basketball. That's not an excuse. He needs to, he's on the floor to hit shots and make shots. And I think the shots will fall. I mean, everything is good about it. I think we could, yesterday I was actually very happy, give Izzo a little bit of credit. I thought we ran a lot of sets for Cormac yesterday and got him a lot of good looks. And even when he wasn't shooting well, we were still going to him and getting him open looks. There was one corner 3 towards the end of the game that was just absolutely beautiful. Him just reading the picks. He's one of the best at doing that, fading or curling around the screen. And, he was getting open looks. So it's something he needs to knock down. I think he will knock it down. like DK said, like the efficiency, yeah, that sucks. But, I think he'll improve on that. And also it's not as glaring and doesn't make as big of a difference right now, because when you asked me at the start of the year, I didn't think we'd get the production that we would get from Gabe Brown on the offensive end point wise. I thought all of our wing points were going to have to come from Cormac. And we've gotten a lot of production offensively from Gabe, which takes a little bit off of Cormac. So, he's still averaging around 10 points, needs to get that efficiency up. But, if I was a betting man, and I am a betting man, I would bet on him to, kind of put this game behind him. He's still going to get his shots up. He just needs to knock them down. Just simple as that. And hopefully the coaching staff is telling him that. Be like, yeah, those are good looks. Just hit the shot. You can do it. You're a good shooter. Just knock them down.
Are you on the train that he should return for a second year? Like, I think we could probably all agree that he would get drafted in the first round this year. But in terms of what you've seen from him and like a physicality, the ability to finish, like I said, at the rim. So he's under 50%. I thought it was maybe between 30 and 40, but it's 47.8%. That's not great. You'd rather see that maybe closer to like 60%, given just how big he is. I think that he's kind of struggled with athleticism and strength around the rim. Do you think that he needs to come back another year? Obviously, he can get the development that he's seeking at the NBA level if he wants to. But to me, it seems like he would be a much more polished product heading into the NBA if he stood one more year in college. Are you kind of at that, or are you still, we have to see how he finishes the season before you can make that assertion?
I think that he will be back for his sophomore year. I think the only thing that would propel him maybe to leave is that if he has an unreal run towards the end of the year, maybe even like one of those NCAA tournament runs where he just has I'm trying to think, who's that? Like a Malachi Richardson from Syracuse run, like guys that just come in there and just make a run in the tournament, a DJ Wilson type run, something that just propels them to be like a very high first round pick. Otherwise, I think it would be very beneficial to him to come back for a sophomore year. I think add some strength, add some finishing around the rim. He's not a bad athlete either. Like we've seen Cormac go to the rim this year and try to catch bodies. Like he has the ability to do so. He's just not strong enough at this point. He's wiry strong. He's not actually strong or has really core foundational strength. So I think that would help get the efficiency numbers up. And, speaking on his life situation, I don't know if he's not in a situation where he's got to like get to the league and get money. I think he's family stable. All that is good. So I think another year of Cormac will be very beneficial for both him and the Michigan State fan base, as well as the basketball team. But I'm not concerned. Like I'm not like hitting the red alert button on Cormac right now.
Yeah. He was getting buckets from like Boo Buie in the lane and Julian Roper. Like he was giving up corner threes. I thought defensively it was probably the worst he's played in a long time, maybe even since like the Kansas game. He didn't look 100% right on that end. He kind of got destroyed a little bit. And I think if you're looking at, okay, if you're getting mucked up by Northwestern's guys on defense, what's going to happen when you get to the league to a certain degree? So I think there's something to be said on the other side of the ball too. Maybe he's not quite ready yet for that, but I think we've seen some steps in the right direction. We just have to see it against the quality opponents that are heading up on the schedule.
Yeah.
Well, Cormac was low-key an eraser yesterday though. He had a couple of nasty blocks. I will give him that.
He defends like he's not a non-factor defensively, which is one of the nicest things you can say about a true freshman at any level in the Big Ten. So we'll revisit this in a couple of weeks, maybe after the Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan games, and hopefully there's a different narrative here with him and his performance and his shooting against good teams. But I have my eyes on that because at this point, 16 games in, that feels like a little bit more than an aberration. I'm dead
you mentioned good teams and try to throw Michigan in there at the end. But go ahead. We played two good teams moving forward, and then we go back to the bad teams category.
Okay, how about talented teams? Because according to, again, I'm basing this off of Ken Palm's rankings. Michigan would be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th best team Michigan State's played this year. So I'm not saying I agree with that, but that's the type of team he struggled with. So
we'll see if King Duck returns.
Okay, so we're going to move in a second to talk point guard and talk Tyson Walker specifically, but I had just a note jotted down of part of why I'm concerned with Christie is that I think coming off of the good stretch for Michigan State, there were still some things that all three of us would say for Michigan State to reach their ceiling this year, we want to see some things happen here. And just off my top of the head running list here, those things would be Christie could still potentially be like a leading scorer type. Tyson Walker is more aggressive offensively, hunting shots. Jaden Akins has a larger role and gets 15, 20 minutes off the bench contributing. Marcus Bingham is playing 25 minutes and is the lockdown guy. Right now, we're 0 for 4 on those things. And like, this was when Michigan State was playing really well. We were saying we still need to see these things happen. And as we're getting into the thick of conference play, you guys, all 4 of those are trending in the wrong direction. Does that has to concern you?
I mean, it definitely concerns me for sure. I'll go for it. It 100% concerns me. Like right now, I can't confidently say that this team can compete I don't want to say compete. They can compete for the Big Ten title. But right now, with the way things are trending and the way we're playing, I don't think we're, a team that I would say will factor in. Like right now, I think it's Wisconsin, Purdue are the 2 teams that I think are battling out.
And Illinois.
In Illinois for the Big Ten for the Big Ten regular season championship. I don't think we're in that mix right now. We're in that mix record-wise.
Purdue has 2 losses though, just to be clear.
True, but I'm just saying the way we're playing, I'm going based off just pure play. Wisconsin does have 2 losses, but I'm just going off just play purposes. I just don't think that the way we're trending and the way we're looking on the floor right now is a team that will be in the mix at the end for a Big Ten regular season championship. Now, if those things change, I do think we are, because we saw how good this team can be, even when those guys some guys aren't playing to the best of their ability. So it's there. If one guy takes a step in the positive direction, it could change the whole outlook. And though, we're halfway through this Big Ten season right now, we can still do things and there still can be changes moving forward. Maybe this is the wake-up call, like DK said, with this team, and we turn that corner going into this, the harder part of the schedule. But right now, based off what we're doing and how we're playing, it doesn't make me confident, and I don't like the way we're trending, even though we are winning games technically.
Let me ask both you guys this quickly, then we'll move to Tyson. Of those 4 that I mentioned, Jaden Akins blossoming into a big contributor off the bench, 20 minutes a game guy. Max Christie being either leading scorer or right there with Gabe Brown for leading scorer. Marcus Bingham, 25 minutes a game every single night. Tyson Walker, hunting shots, aggressive, key scorer for this team. Which of those 4 are you most and least confident in actually happening this season? DK, let's go to you first.
I think Max becoming the scorer is the most likely thing to happen of the 4. Least likely, I don't know. Akins has had a bit of an up and down stretch. So, I think defensively and energy wise, he continues to give you what you ask from him, particularly from a freshman perspective. He doesn't quite have an offensive role. I think part of that is he doesn't know quite where to get his shots right now. We've seen him hit some threes. I don't know 100% if that's his game, like a knockdown shooter. We saw him take a couple off the dribble long twos yesterday, and he found the pine pretty quickly after he shot back-to-back ones for those. But I think that probably the minute span that he's been playing has been fair. I would almost even say to a certain degree, Brooks kind of came in and showed us a little something again yesterday. Every time he hits the floor offensively, at least he gives you a little bit of a boost. I wouldn't mind maybe even seeing Pierre play at least, a stretch in the first half. And if it goes well, maybe even a stretch in the second again. I think you need to continue to find some sparks off the bench. So I don't know if Akins gets to that 20 minutes per game. I think he's a guy that in the offseason really needs to figure out what his role is going to be offensively on this team. And if he's going to be a mid-range shooter, then he really needs to go to work on that part of his game. If he's a guy that's going to be a set 3-point shooter, then again, he needs to work on coming off screens and doing that in the offseason. I think that the staff has kind of just thrown him out there and say, you be the energy piece, and whatever you give us, we're going to kind of just take it as it is without really giving them a clearly defined role, which a lot of the other players on the team have. So I don't really see that happening. The Bingham 25 minutes, I'd love to see it, but I think that that's a bit of a pipe dream too. I don't know. And Tyson Walker, I think, can hunt his shots, but I don't know if he consistently does it every single game down the stretch. I think you're going to see a couple of games where he's really locked in and he's hunting his shot. And there's a couple of games where, even to a certain degree yesterday, where you see him just not really being aggressive and more looking to set the team up. So there's a balance that he's kind of struck between there. So that's where I would go.
Cart, quickly, your answer on that?
I think the most likely one's Cormac. I agree with that. The one, if I could choose that I want, would be Bingham 25. Like if I couldn't have any of the other three and I could only have one of those things happen, Bingham playing the 25 minutes would be the one I would choose.
I agree with that.
Yeah, me too. We're all on the same page there. All right. I do want to spend some time talking Tyson specifically. Another, I guess you could say, quiet offensive game for him. He did have 8 assists. At this point, I think it's fair to expect, even in quote unquote poor games as a team, Tyson and AJ collectively are going to get 10 plus assists every single night. That's what they've shown is a baseline. It's a very impressive baseline. It's still, to me, is hard to win games against good Big Ten teams if your point guard is not creating consistent offense for himself. I've been very adamant that that is my take. My take is that guards win in March. And I think going back historically, point guards that are only facilitators become a problem when you get to the stretch run of the season. And right now, AJ is going to be that. AJ might get you 10 in transition, get to the rim. But that's why AJ is coming off the bench, is because he is a non-threat for the most part for his own offense, unless he's bully balling his way to the rim. Tyson Walker can be more. All three of us agree on that. But he hasn't been consistently. 2 for 5 last night, 8 assists, as we said, only 2 turnovers. I guess my question to you guys is this. I'll go to you first, DK. Can Michigan State actually make a deep tournament run with this version of Tyson Walker? Or are we still hoping for some sort of leap from him this season?
I've tried to look at the point guard position collectively this year. And so if you look at what type of production you're getting between the two, I think that is, it's not a perfect way to be able to view the team, but I think to a certain degree, it's kind of what has to happen, because some nights one guy's on and some nights the other guy is off. I don't think we've seen like a perfect game where both of them are churning at the same time. So that's been a little bit frustrating, because if you could get both of them on the same page and you're getting 40 minutes of point guard play, that's going well, I think that would be exciting. But for the most part, if I told you Michigan State could have one guy be right around 14 to 15 points per game and throw 9 assists a game to maybe like 4 turnovers, would you say that that's a positive for the team or a negative?
I mean, it's objectively a positive, but it doesn't fix again, maybe it's a personal thing. I just think you have to have a point guard that can score for himself. And right now we don't have that.
I think in March you were correct. If you look across the Big Ten, who has that guy anywhere in the league? That's the thing. The whole league's position is down. I know we've gone back and forth of like who the best point guards is. Maybe I need to take a step back from that, because I said they may be the best and now they've looked like crap the last couple of games. But if you're looking just generally at that position in the conference, who can you point to in the top of the conference that has like a dominant situation going? I think that Illinois has 2 shooting guards, combo guard types that have carried the load. But I think in spots, even against Michigan, you saw maybe some of the issues they're going to have if a team can put some ball pressure on them. I don't think that you really want Trent Frazier being the guy to have to constantly handle the ball. Maybe Curbelo comes back and alleviates some of that. Purdue doesn't have one. Isaiah Thompson, Eric Hunter, if you want to say Ivy's the guy, fair, but he doesn't really get those reps as a point guard. He's not giving the ball in his hands down the end stretch, so they don't really have it. And you look at OSU, kind of in the same boat. Jamarlee Wheeler, decent, not great. So I think if you're looking at all kind of the top teams that are Michigan State's kind of competing with for the Big Ten title, nobody has that. And so, yes, it's been frustrating that we haven't gotten consistent production out of Tyson Walker. I think to a certain degree, he looks to the bench all the time. When I'm watching on the second rewatch for these games, anytime something goes happen, if he fouls, if he misses a shot, his eyes immediately go to the bench. I think that he's had some difficulty just adjusting to the way that he's being coached. I think he's still figuring that out, and we might not see it until the next year. I'm really happy that we get him for 2 years, because I think a version of Tyson that we want to see is somewhere out there. I just don't know if we see it this year. Can Michigan State reach their ceiling without it? Probably not. Can they get by and at least maybe make the second weekend, possibly put yourself in a position to win another game? I think yes. I think it's been good enough, not great. That's kind of where I'm at right now with the point guard spot.
Carr, what's your slant here? I was looking to actually quote a text from you, but I don't have it. But essentially, for the first time all season, you texted me frustration specific to Tyson Walker yesterday.
It to me, being a good point guard is not just throwing assists, to be honest. Like that's not that's a great baseline that he has assists, but also being a good point guard is knowing when you need to set the table for others, but also knowing when your team needs you to score. And with me, the frustration is I don't get mad at AJ not getting us offense because, like you said, I don't expect the AJ's career high is 17 points. You know, AJ is a guy who goes to the hoop. He's a guy who uses his strength to go to the hoop. He doesn't really have a jump shot. He is what he is. The thing that should separate Tyson from AJ is that Tyson has the ability to get his own shot, and he has a jump shot, and he can get his own shot. We've seen it. And for some reason, he just refuses to do so. So, you know, whether that's mentally with him, I don't know what it is. But the fact of the matter is that him refusing to do so is hurting us as a team. I'd rather him get a bunch of shots up and miss it, for the love of it. Like, we don't even know if he's hot or not in a game because he doesn't even get the attempts up or doesn't even look to get the attempts. I think that we need Tyson to score the ball. It doesn't have to be like our leading scorer, like 15, 16 points a game, but you got to give us something better than what we're getting right now for Michigan State to be a good team. And it's just frustrating because we've seen him be aggressive and it doesn't look bad at all. Like I like the way he plays when he's aggressive. So it's odd to me. I stopped trying to understand it. But right now, if I had to pick a point guard that's better for this team and who I want in, I think I would go with AJ Hoggard.
Whoa, I was not expecting that quote.
That's a big statement.
The fact of the matter to me is I just think that they do right now. They're doing the exact same thing, except at least AJ will be somewhat aggressive going to the rim. It just seems that because Tyson's a little undersized, when he gets to the rim, he has a little trouble finishing, especially because he doesn't have an in-between or floater game. So, it might be a stretch, but I wouldn't argue. And I personally would take AJ Hoggard right now.
So I'll say this, right? So we saw him dish the game winner to Joey Hauser against Minnesota. Before he did that, he made like 4 mistakes down the stretch there. He almost threw that one out of bounds. Remember, Max Christie was kind of floating to the corner. He almost threw that out of bounds there. He had like a stupid foul. Like, I think AJ Hoggard, there's a version of AJ Hoggard that can be very good. I think that his brain like speeds up during the course of it. The game has not 100% slowed down for him. And the decision making is not something that I really feel comfortable with. Do I think he can go get you a bucket? Do I think when there's chaos ensuing and he's going in transition, he can score and be some of what Michigan State needs offensively? Yes. In the half court, under 4 minutes, do I really want AJ Hoggard making the decisions? Tom Izzo didn't even want to make it do. He was giving the ball to Max Christie at the top of the court because he didn't trust AJ to be able to bring it up and make a play for somebody. So I think that you get a mixed bag with AJ. It's going to continue to get better as he gets during the course of his year. What we saw from last night from AJ Hoggard, because I think Hoggard checked in, I want to say right under the under 9 mark, and then he turned it over immediately. Careless, loose ball. He was trying to throw it over the top to Christie. Immediate bench. He didn't play the rest of it. Walker set the team up and got them. I don't think he had another turnover that last 8-minute stretch. Yes, you would have liked to see him be a little bit more aggressive. I think he had a take where a left-handed layup that just kind of rolled out or whatever. I think maybe that was his only shot attempt during that stretch, but he didn't turn the ball over. He got the guys in the right spots. He was finding guys to get the ball. That last second drive and dish that he had for Hall to hit that game winner at the top, I thought was a good move. I just think that you can maybe trust him a little bit more. It's frustrating to watch a guy that you think can drop at least 12 points a game, not even hunt shots. There's something mentally for him that's just blocked and he's thinking too much about the game, in my opinion. So hopefully that changes, but I think generally I would still lean Walker for the best version of the team, at least the more trustworthy version in my mind.
So I'm going to say something that I guarantee is going to get me pushback this week for anybody listening to this, and I'll defend it quickly. But the decision of Tyson Walker over AJ Hoggard, to me, has a lot of parallels to a decision of trusting Joey Hauser over Marcus Bingham. We're not going to accept that there are issues and that there may be just like turnovers with Hoggard or effort with Bingham. Like there's some bad with the good, but instead we'd rather have the safe guy who gets a 6.8 points per game. That's actually exactly what Tyson Walker and Joey Hauser are both averaging per game this season. Tyson plays more minutes a game than Joey Hauser and has the ball in his hands way more than Joey Hauser does. To me, at this point, Tyson has shown what his ceiling is. Like we may have seen flashes of he can get 12 some nights, but like he doesn't want to shoot. He doesn't want to do that. He'll take care of the ball, or he'll try to, and he'll generate a lot of assist opportunities, but AJ Hoggard does that too.
He's Tum Tum.
He's not Tum Tum, but I still can't believe I got as much pushback over that as I did, because this guy goes 1 for 5 more often than he goes for 10 points a game. People are acting like he's a Spartan great at point guard. I really don't get it.
It was a bad comp. Nobody said he's a Spartan great. Anybody who said that's ridiculous.
Cassius Winston.
The comp was terrible.
Cassius Winston's the worst
that one.
Cassius Winston is a worse comp, and your own staff was making that comparison.
I did not me. I certainly would not. I would never make that comparison. And it said vibes. That's what I heard somebody say, vibes. Okay, it wasn't a direct comparison. Okay. But regardless, I don't necessarily disagree with you. That was whatever. Your take was as bad as that one. Let's say that.
It wasn't really that bad. He's 1 bucket less a game than Tyson.
Okay, but he can actually shoot the ball, and he's like a threat to shoot.
Who cares if he can shoot? He doesn't shoot.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got to figure it out, but I think that not taking into consideration the complete responsibility that he has to have and getting integrated in the system. This is part of the reason why Tom Izzo's never really gone and got a transfer point guard. It is the mantle of responsibility at Michigan State is as high at the point guard spot as is anywhere in the country. Like when Michigan State is good, they have good point guards. I think he just needs another year. I think you're going to see a version of him next year that's going to be significantly better. That's just my general opinion on it. I think once he gets a little bit more acclimated, the version that we're hoping to have seen this year will be somewhere down the way next year. So I'm making a bold prediction that I think you eventually get that version of the guy. It's just taking us longer than we would have liked.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say on top of that, the DK, I think he makes a good point with that, because I mean, we've seen transfer PGs around the country this year struggle. Like it's
everywhere.
It's been a theme. So, I mean, I think maybe coaches are going to actually take a long look at that when they actually are looking for somebody in the portal in the point guard position. It's a lot harder to basically, get a transfer to run your team than to throw in a 4-man like a Dawson Garcia or somebody else, or a big man into a situation. It's just a lot different. So that, good point. I agree with that point there. The transfer PG thing does create somewhat of an issue.
And
if he's a system guy, I think it would be different, right? Like Hoggard's looked more confident. Hoggard looked like Tyson did in some regards last year. He looked broken in spots and not understanding what his role is or what he should be doing. And now this version of Hoggard is like on the far other side. I'd like to take some of Hoggard's confidence and give it to Tyson Walker. And I'd like to give some of Tyson Walker's caution and give it to Hoggard. Can we maybe make that trade at some point during the season?
Yeah, if we could merge them into one, you have one great point guard, I would say, which is your point. You've taken the production and said that they can win with that. And that's a very good, true point. I just think by March, we need one of them to actually be an offensive threat. We'll see if that happens. All right, we have 4 minutes left. I want to take some questions. We did get some questions on Twitter. Let's just run through these quickly. First one from Spartan Dog JD. I laughed at this. I have one question. Why? Cart, you want to take that one? Why for yesterday?
Yeah, I tried to ask myself that question many times, and I, went beer after beer to try to get some shed some light on that question. I don't know why. Just why? Why me? Why life? Is it really worth it? I don't know. Is basketball that great? Overrated. It's an orange ball. It's a hoop.
Yeah, that's you are down bad if you're saying that. I do quickly. You're being dramatic as hell, man. Like you're in a good spot. You're 14-3. You lost one Big Ten game. Boo-hoo. You could be 7-7, Cart. Okay. Spare me the tears. Spare me the bleach that you wanted to drink yesterday. It's all going to be all right for you, big fella.
Save the bleach for the March Madness. Okay. If they don't make it to the second weekend, we can drink the bleach together. I'll come over. We'll chug it together. Yeah. Let's just take a deep breath. I'm more on the Greg train. Let's take a little bit of a deep breath. bad loss, inexcusable in many regards. Let's not go crazy.
Second question here from Bailey Van Houten. I hope I'm saying that right. What's the path to getting Malik Hall more run? I don't think you want to pull the rug from under Marcus just yet, and Julius has earned some run. Is it simply giving Joey 15 minutes a night and hoping he does more with less? DK, your thoughts?
I mean, we literally said that exact point earlier in the podcast. So yes, 100%. Hall has to play 25 to 30 minutes a night, I think, for this team to be the best version of itself going down the stretch. He's a 10-5 guy he's shooting 70% effective field goal percentage. I was just like pulling up numbers to see like kind of where that would place it. Udoka Azubuike had a season for Kansas a couple years ago, 74.4%. So you're talking about in terms of efficiency from the field, and obviously he's doing it in a variety of different ways, from deep, from the free throw line, from the paint, from mid-range. He's almost as efficient as one of the most efficient players that we've seen in college basketball recently. Like, you got to play the guy more. I don't know how many times I can say it.
Yeah. All right. Third one here from Max Rothley. What would you guys do to curb the turnover issues? Anything schematic you would change? I'll quickly take it. If you guys want to chime in, feel free. I don't think there's anything schematic to change. I think this is across the board. I think this is a problem with the entire team, from centers to forwards to wings to guards. And other than just emphasizing it and doubling down on the importance of this in practice, maybe dial up some crazy drills in practice, get the running going, some suicides and shit for simple turnovers in practice. I don't know what you do. It's a team-wide issue. It's not just the point guards. To me, it's on the players themselves to fix it come game time. All right, and I have one to throw at you. There was some back and forth from prior Izzone members to current Izzone members. This pops up like once every 2 years that I see. It seems that the general complaints were from some previous Izzone members that were at the game, that this was as quiet as they've ever heard the Izzone. If you're going to be there, it's your job to deliver for this team and make the atmosphere an energetic one. The Izzone members now apparently pushed back and said, we're not the problem. The people in the green seats are the problem. What do you make of this mess? Is this just nonsense, unnecessary nonsense? Because that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I think this is just their way of this. Everything's going wrong. Find a way to lash out. Like, no way we're really doing that. Like, it's really like Izzone versus Izzone type thing. I don't know. And maybe I'm not the best person to ask. I didn't go to Michigan State. I wasn't entrenched in the Izzone. I'm entrenched in the basketball team. Don't really care about the student section like that. But I don't know. Look, it's a bad stretch. It was a bad game. Let's not fight each other. All right. Let's come together. Every Michigan State fans as a whole. Let's bring it up. Let's not tear each other down. We're all we got. All right. We'll be okay.
In any point in your Albion career, was it the student section or anyone in the crowd's fault for your on-court performance?
No. Never.
That's essentially where I'm at with this. DK, yeah, any thoughts on that? And
yeah, I think that they've been fine. It just is what it is at this point. I think that they didn't have a lot to cheer about yesterday. Well, how were they supposed to be hype about a game where you're down to Northwestern for almost the whole thing? They don't have Pete Nance. So I thought the energy was decent yesterday. I think, have there been better Izzones? Yes. Is it something that's really affecting the play? Like you said, no.
Oh, it is. All right, goddamn Gen Z kids, get up out of your student section and make some noise. Come on, man.
Oh, man.
Look, the big games, the section is always hype. It's a Saturday game at noon against Northwestern, a game you should have won. I don't know. For the big games, I think they show out well. It's as good a section as anywhere.
Look, as frustrating as yesterday's game was, I greatly enjoyed this episode. So thank you to both of you for powering through this one. DK, you will be in Madison, Wisconsin for a massive game with Big Ten championship potential implications. If you want to follow DK along with that, please do at Spartan Hoops _DK, I believe. Did I get that right?
Got it.
Bang. I'm good at this. And SpartanHoops.com, where you can get all of him and his team's fantastic coverage of the Michigan State basketball team. You can follow Carter and I at Sleepers Media and on the Field of 68. Gentlemen, always a pleasure, and hopefully we have some wins to talk about next week.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Hope we do. Otherwise, I won't be here.